When you let another country have access, not only critical infrastructure, but the information about millions of your citizens, you are definitely taking a risk there. And I think the risk is much lower with the US. So,
welcome to the Regulating AI podcast with Sanjay Puri. AI is changing the world faster than rules can keep up. So how do we protect people without killing progress? Each week, Sanjay brings you inside conversations with global leaders, policymakers, and innovators who are wrestling with that exact question. So if you're curious about the future of technology and how it's governed, you're in the right place. From video game developer to voice of California's high desert, our conversation today is with Jay Obernolte, engineer, entrepreneur, pilot, and member of Congress. With a master's in AI and a past life building games at Farsight Studios, he swapped code and controllers for committees. Today, he represents California's 23rd district in the US House, fighting to bring fiscal discipline, tech-savvy leadership, and rural community grit to Washington.
Digitization, would it be in governance? What kind of frameworks would you pick on, Congressman, specifically between the U.S.-ASEAN relationship?
sure. Well, I think the nice thing about AI is that it has the potential to be beneficial in so many different usage contexts. And because it's so general purpose, I think we can help in a lot of different areas. But I think the pitch is the U.S. AI stack. The U.S. still, not to denigrate other countries, but I think it's still undeniably true that the U.S. leads the world in AI development and deployment. And also, I think that being our partners comes along with a lot of risk reduction. And what we have seen with some of our competitors is that there are always strings attached. We found that with Belt and Road, not to pick on anyone, right? But there's always seems to be some strings attached when you let another country have access, not only critical infrastructure, but the information about millions of your citizens. You are definitely taking a risk there, and I think the risk is much lower with the US. So, I think that's the pitch.
A lot of these countries are also, they're setting up a national AI framework. They're dealing with the same usual issue. Want to build a great innovation stack, but also want to manage safety, security, ethics. Are there any frameworks that you can suggest to them how to balance this innovation versus regulation or innovation versus safety, Congressman?
What people don't want to hear is that we're just not going to do AI because we're terrified about what the risks could be, and we're going to forego all the beneficial changes that AI can bring. So we have to strike a balance, and it has to be a very clear-eyed balance between, at the same time, protecting our citizens against the risks of malicious use of AI, and balancing that against not wanting to stifle innovation and entrepreneurialism and the deployment of AI. And that's what everyone is struggling with. I think what everyone saw in Europe with the AI Act is that they took a very heavy-handed approach that I think has already really cost them. If you look at the flight of not just investor capital, but technical talent out of Europe and into places like the United States and the UK that have taken different approaches. We have that discussion about that, achieving that balance. We have to, at the same time, bring up what the risks are. And it's interesting, I was listening to the tail end of your last forum there, and one of the things that was said that I really strongly agree with is that most of the illegal uses of AI are already illegal. Harmful, I should say. Most of the harmful uses of AI are already illegal. We were just talking a moment ago about cyber theft. We don't need new rules and new regulations to say that you can't use AI to defraud someone and steal their money. It's already illegal to do that. What we do need is we need to make sure our law enforcement agencies are equipped with the tools and the technology they need to detect this, to track it down, and to catch the perpetrators of that fraud. But we don't need new laws that say it's illegal to do that. And that's true in most of the cases of malicious use of AI. And that even goes down to some of the cases that you would think are more borderline. I'll give you one example, because we talk a lot about bias. And I actually think it's it's a little humorous when I hear people talk about bias in AI, because for me as a technologist, AI is all about bias. You know, you're asking, when you're training a neural network, you are biasing that neural network, and you're doing it intentionally and on purpose. So we have to be very cautious when we use the word bias. But when we use it to describe social phenomenon. And one of the things that we're afraid of is that the biases that are used, that are exposed in the data that's used to train the AI are going to be reflected in highly consequential decisions that the AI makes. But nothing about that conversation should distract from the fact that most of those biases are already illegal. And I'll give you a specific example. A few years ago, there was a US company that was training an algorithm to automate the screening of resumes. And you probably remember this. So the idea was that if you have a job opening and you post it and you get 10,000 resumes, and you want to winnow that down to the 100 that are going to get called back from a human, that are going to determine then which 25 people get the interview, right? So that's very beneficial use if you can do that in a way that works. You're going to save a lot of human productivity if you could make that work. But in retrospect, we would classify that as a highly consequential decision-making process. In other words, something that deserves extra scrutiny when you're going to automate it because of the consequences of that decision-making on the people that are involved. Someone that might have gotten a job that doesn't get it because AI filtered out their resume improperly, right? So we do worry very much about bias in that circumstance. But I mean, these were early days and this wasn't quite recognized at the time. So they developed the algorithm, they went to go test it, and it exposed some very troubling biases in the algorithm, racial biases. And those biases were unintentional, but they were baked into the data that was used to train the algorithm. And the data, the algorithm sussed out the wrong thing, which was to filter on the basis of race. So people were horrified by this, and rightfully so. But none of that should distract from the fact that, number one, it's great that it was unintentional. It's great that it was caught in testing. It wasn't that algorithm was never deployed. It was corrected. We learned a lot about the way that those biases can filter into algorithms through training data. But most importantly, it is already illegal to discriminate on the basis of race in hiring in any way, shape, or form. And it does not matter if it's a human doing it or if it's an algorithm doing it. And if that algorithm had been deployed, the moment those biases had been exposed, the algorithm would have been illegal to use. And people forget about that. We don't need, people think that, well, we need to step in, we need to guard against these malicious, these negative outcomes. And the answer is no, we already have those rules, the framework in place. And so dealing with AI like it's brand new, it is not necessary in most of those cases. And when you tell people this, when we articulate it, it makes people a lot more comfortable because people think that AI is largely unregulated right now. And that is absolutely not the case. We already talked about the FAA and NHTSA and the FAA, and there are 100 different examples already in U.S. government where regulatory bodies are having to deal with the effects of AI. And so the perception that it's unregulated is completely wrong. We just need to make sure that we massage that framework to make sure that the harmful stuff is filtered out and protected against while still enabling the beneficial stuff, and I think we'll be fine.
Countries want to have their own system that protects their data, their languages. We are talking about obviously exporting the US AI stack. How can those two things kind of come together? When you look at countries like Singapore or others, they have tremendous capability in AI. They have ASEAN countries have languages that go back hundreds and thousands of years, etc. So how do we kind of bring those things together?
Right. No, I think it's a great question. And the answer is that if you look at the scientific research, the most powerful and capable AI is the models that have access to the greatest amount of information, right? Just in an unqualified statement. And so as a worldwide community, we want our most advanced models to have access to everything. And we can have a discussion about copyrighted material and private data, all that stuff. And those are appropriate discussions to have.
As these countries are maturing, where do you see some opportunities as far as talent is concerned?
No, that's a great question. I think that a worldwide meritocracy where the best talent rises to our distant ancestor, just a few generations ago that went through Ellis Island or somewhere else. So, we were all immigrants, and I think that if we can get back to a system of meritocracy like that, the whole worldwide community will benefit.
A little fun question. A couple of countries have named a minister for AI. Would you recommend for us, any of these ASEAN countries to set up a minister for AI?
Yes, but regulating it in a medical device is going to be different than regulating it in a video game, right? So the danger of appointing an AI minister is that then they will centralize the regulation of AI within their ministry and therefore accomplish the opposite of what you're trying to accomplish.
So is it yes or no? Or maybe.
I like with yes, but. Yes, but be very careful. I'll give you an example. So you saw the President Biden and executive order creating the AI Safety Institute, and President Trump undid that because we can't use the word safety because that's a Biden thing and therefore it must be bad. And now we call it CASE, right? The Center for AI, what is it, Stability and Advancement or something like that, whatever the acronym is. Both of those are under NIST. And it's very important to make the point that NIST is a standard-setting agency. It is a non-regulatory agency. And folks, that is very intentional, that we're putting we're empowering the agency to create standards and manage international cooperation in an agency without the power to regulate, because we do not want them to use that authority to create regulations. We just want them to create standards. And I think that that's appropriate, and that's a way of solving that problem.
Standards, not regulation. That's the last word. Congressman, thank you so much. Your insight, not just technical, but also from a legislative standpoint. Really, as the world is moving towards AI policy, we need more people like you. And I hope our audience understands that there is a huge opportunity for US and ASEAN to work together, not from an economic standpoint, but I think billions of people will benefit from this. So please give a big round of applause to Congressman.
Thanks for tuning in to the Regulating AI podcast with Sanjay Puri. If you enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to leave a comment. We'd love to hear what you thought. Share it with someone curious about the future of AI, and join us next time for more stories and insights from the leaders shaping what's ahead. Right here on the Regulating AI podcast.